2 Corinthians 4:18 says, "So we don't look at the troubles we can see now, rather we fix our gaze on the things that cannot be seen. For the things that we see now will soon be gone, but the things we cannot see will last forever." God intervenes in our lives to capture our hearts through the people we come into contact with, the situations that we deal with, and the situations in our daily lives. We need to pay attention to God and stop focusing on all the other things in our lives. Relationships and people that we come into contact with are places that God can work in our lives. For example, my best friend Lena, I've been best friends with her for 8 years. She's not a Christian, and I didn't think that my relationship with her would help bring me closer to God. But it did. Through conversations that we had together and questions that she asked me, I realized that I didn't have a full grasp of God's ways or any of the Bible, really. And so when she would ask me these questions, I would have to go search for the answers, and through that I got closer with God and learned more about Him from the Bible. Not all relationships are that fruitful, however. In the situations that we deal with, that are good or bad, God is there to help us. My dad is a drug addict, and my parents got divorced when I was 16. When I found out that my dad was a drug addict, I felt very hurt and confused, and I didn't know why God would put him in my life. But through dealing with him my whole life, I became a stronger person, and when my parents got divorced, I completely devoted my life to God. I started reading my Bible, I got more friends at church, I started helping out in the youth group. I just gave my life completely to God. And through that, I became a stronger person, and I never thought that the situation with my dad would lead me there, but it did. Ecclesiastes 3:11 says, "Yet God has made everything beautiful for its own time. He has planted eternity in the human heart, but even so, people cannot see the full scope of God's work from beginning to end." For me, work isn't just a job, it's a place for God to work through me. The Billy Graham Evangelical Association says, "The majority of our life is invested in preparation for work and in doing it. That's why God's presence in the workplace matters." I have 2 jobs. First, I work with preschoolers with special needs. Sometimes it can get frustrating to work with them when they're having behaviors that I can't help control, or just when they're not listening. But working with them has really helped me see their pure hearts, and when there's a time where I'm frustrated or I feel like I can't help them, then one of them comes up and tells me a silly joke, or one of them comes up and hugs me, and I'm brought back to that place of seeing their purity and joy. I also work with 2 men with autism, and that can be overwhelming sometimes too. And when I work with them and I'm feeling overwhelmed, and they seem to be able to tell, because one of them just starts praying for me to not be overwhelmed, and I just realize that I'm so blessed to have both of these jobs, and I can help bring God to them instead of just being frustrated about the little things. When I realize that I get frustrated so easily, I also realize that I haven't spent time with God lately, because when I have spent time with Him and I have read my Bible, I'm more focused, I'm happier, but when I haven't, then I feel more frustrated, I feel more drawn away. So when I start feeling like that, when I realize that, then I come back to God and I pay attention and I put more time and effort into our relationship. Psalm 69:32 says, "The humble will see their God at work and be glad. Let all who seek God's help be encouraged." Even when we aren't paying attention and don't see it, God intervenes in our lives to capture our hearts through the people we come into contact with, situations we deal with, and situations in our daily lives. He is constantly and perfectly working in our lives. We just need to stop and listen to what He's trying to teach us.